The old apartment building on Willow Street had 11 floors, but nobody ever rented room 1107 anymore. People in the neighborhood whispered about it. Delivery drivers refused to go up there. Tenants who stayed on the 11th floor usually moved out within weeks. Some claimed they heard crying through the walls at night. Others said they saw a pale woman standing at the end of the hallway, motionless, with soaking wet hair hanging over her face. But the landlord always laughed it off. Old pipes, he'd say. People scare themselves. When Ethan moved into apartment 1103, he didn't care about ghost stories. He was broke, tired, and desperate for cheap rent. The building was ugly, stained by years of rain and neglect, but it was affordable. That should have been his first warning. The elevator barely worked. It groaned like an animal every time it climbed upward. The lights flickered constantly, and the hallway smelled like mildew and something rotten hidden deep inside the walls. Still, Ethan unpacked his boxes and tried to ignore the strange feeling creeping over him. The first night was quiet. The second night, he heard knocking. 3 slow knocks. Thump. 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 He checked the peephole. Nobody. The hallway outside stretched empty beneath dim yellow lights. Ethan opened the door anyway. Nothing. But near his feet sat a puddle of water. He frowned. The carpet around it was soaked, though the ceiling above was perfectly dry. He cleaned it up and went back inside. At 3:14 a.m., the knocking came again. Thump. 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 This time, he ignored it. Then came the whispering. Soft. Barely audible. A woman's voice. Help me. Ethan froze in bed. The whisper came from the other side of his bedroom wall. Please. He pressed his ear against the paint. The woman sounded terrified. Sobbing. Gasping for breath. Then another sound interrupted her. Heavy footsteps. Slow dragging footsteps. The woman suddenly screamed. The sound cut off instantly. Ethan jumped away from the wall, heart hammering. He grabbed his phone and called the landlord, but it went straight to voicemail. By morning, Ethan convinced himself it was another tenant. He decided to knock on the neighboring apartment. Nobody answered. Empty. Then he stood in front of apartment 1107. The door looked different from the others. Dark stains spread around the bottom frame. The brass numbers were crooked. Deep scratches covered the wood like someone had clawed at it. Ethan raised his hand to knock. And noticed the lock was gone. The apartment wasn't sealed. It was slightly open. A freezing draft drifted from inside. Hello? Ethan called. No answer. He pushed the door wider. The apartment was pitch black. Not empty, abandoned. Old furniture sat beneath thick layers of dust. Mold climbed the walls. The air smelled damp and sour. Then Ethan noticed the water. The entire floor was wet. A trail of water led down the hallway deeper into the apartment. Against every instinct screaming inside him, Ethan followed it. Drip. 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 The sound came from the bathroom. The door was cracked open. Inside, the bathtub overflowed with black water. Ethan stared at it in confusion. The faucet wasn't running. Yet the tub kept filling. The water slowly spilled onto the tile floor, creeping toward him like it was alive. Then something moved beneath the surface. Ethan stumbled backward. A pale hand rose from the black water. Then another. A woman slowly pulled herself upward from the tub. Her skin was grey and bloated. Long wet hair covered her face. Water poured endlessly from her mouth onto the floor. Ethan couldn't move. The woman tilted her head unnaturally. Bones cracked. Then she spoke in a broken whisper. "Did he send you?" Ethan backed away, shaking. The woman suddenly crawled out of the tub with horrifying speed. Her limbs bent wrong. Her head twitched violently. Water splashed everywhere as she dragged herself across the floor toward him. Ethan ran. He sprinted through the apartment and slammed into the hallway outside. Behind him came wet slapping footsteps. Fast. Too fast. He turned toward the elevator. But the elevator doors were already open. Inside stood a tall man wearing a dark coat. His face looked wrong. Blurry. Like Ethan couldn't focus on it. The man smiled. "Stay out of 1107, he whispered. The hallway lights exploded. Darkness swallowed everything. Then Ethan heard the woman screaming again. Not from the apartment. From right behind him. Cold fingers wrapped around his ankle. Ethan looked down. The ghost woman stared up at him from the floor. Her hair slowly parted. Her eyes were completely black. And her mouth stretched far wider than humanly possible. The last thing Ethan ever heard was her whisper. "He killed us all." The next morning, tenants complained about a terrible smell on the 11th floor. Police searched the building. They found apartment 1103 empty. But inside apartment 1107, they discovered something horrifying hidden behind the bathroom wall. 7 skeletons. All stacked together. And among them was a fresh body. Ethan. To this day, tenants say room 1107 still leaks water beneath the door at night. And if you hear 3 slow knocks after midnight, don't answer.